This is Rick Passek, Fly Fishing Fanatic, and welcome to another edition of On the Bench with Sport Fishing on the Fly. Today I will be tying a quite natural looking swinging fly, spey fly for steelhead, salmon, bull trout, even big rainbows will go after this as well. So it's a really versatile pattern. Pretty natural looking color wise, a little bit of sparkle in it, but natural for the most part. So, alrighty, let's get going. So, in the vise we have a Ahrex HR412 low water. So use any kind of a low water that you like. Partridge makes a really nice one. Ahrex makes a great one. So whatever one you like. For the tail, we're going to be using some yellow mallard flank. For the body, we will be using some Semperfly, Microglint in antique gold. That's going to be the body itself. For the flash in the wing, we'll be using some Semperfly Rio Grande in gold mix. Flash. For the wing itself, red squirrel tail. For the overwing, just to get a little bit more movement, a Coq de Leon feather, CDL. Just going to use some of them. You'll see some of the. For the throat, going to use some ringneck rump, black. And for the thread, going to be using some Semperfly floral orange. This happens to be 12-aught. I'd probably normally do it with an 8-aught, but that's what I had on my spool. Good enough. So, just gonna start my thread. Let's bring it back to about the hook point, no further. And then I'm just gonna build up just a bit of a bulge here for the tail. I want this tail to stick up. So I'm just going to build a little bit of a bulge here. It acts as a bit of a hot spot too because of the color, right? So just kind of cool. So, okay, so that's it. Excuse my finger if I cut the tip off of it with a knife a couple of days ago. So looking kind of ugly, but is what it is. So hopefully my tying doesn't get affected too much. So taking a mallard flank feather, and I'm just going to kind of put this all together, just squeeze it all together, and then there's a natural curve. I want that natural curve going up. I'm going to tie it in longer than I want it, 3 or 4 tightish turns, and then I'll pull it back where I need it, lengthwise. I want it a little bit past the hook, so about there is pretty good by the looks of it. Let's double check. Just make sure that's sitting right on top. I'm just going to take a look here. Yeah, that's sitting right on top. So now I'm just going to roughly cut it up to the split in the hook there. There's in these low waters, there's up to about there, give or take. Just cut that off. And then just with open wraps, I'm just going to tie that down. I'll cut that little piece off there that I missed. And then I'll just go back over it, making sure this is nice and tight. Down. And I'm going to do one last thing. I'm going to go back over and under that tail and over top. That just helps make that stand up a bit better. Okay. So if you've got a little stray one like this, just give it a tug off. Yeah, there you go. That's better. So now I am just going to do a quick little whip finish. Get this out of the this thread out of the way. Now I could normally I'll tie the tail in with the microglint, but the proper way is to do it the way I just showed you. It'll hold it a little bit better. The microglint, doesn't matter what brand you're using, can be a little brittle. It can break if you're using it this way, so just be careful with it. So I'm just going to go touching wraps all the way forward, all the way back, and all the way forward. Just want to make sure that this body is entirely covered. Okay, and back. And forward. Now really take your time on this part. Make sure that you're coming all the way forward, touching, making sure all that orange underbody is covered up. I'm going to come right up onto that split there a little bit. Okay. Quick little whip finish. I just put just a dab of Sally Hansen's just right on there, just a slight little dab, just to help it. And then tie my orange thread back on. Okay, so once that's back on, now I'll take my calf tail, and I'm gonna again do the same thing I did in the back right here. I'm just going to build up, I don't want to go too far back, but I'm just going to build up a bit of a bulge there for this calf tail to, now I could use dubbing if I wanted to, some natural like hare's ear dubbing or something like that, but just to help hold that calf tail up a bit. So now I'm just going to grab myself a little pinch, so, you know, not massive. You want a decent wing here, but maybe the maximum the size of a pencil. So, okay. I'm just going to pull out if there's any short hairs in there. I'm going to hold it by the tips. Just pull out any short hairs. And I want this to be just past the tail. So about like that. Okay, so I'm going to tie that in right there. All I did is measure with one hand and transfer it over. So now I just want to make sure that this is sitting on top, not turned over. And then come back to that tie-in point there. Okay. It's looking not bad. Get in there with your scissors. Just cut off that waist. Okay, and then I will lash down the rest of that, creating a little bit of a nice orangey head. It's going to get done better later anyway. Now I lift up and I go behind that tail, that wing, and pull forward. And again, lift up, pull behind that tail, pull forward. Okay. So now I'll take some of my flash. If you don't have this blend, just a nice kind of a gold flash with a little, you know, hint of red in it would be nice. I'm just gonna put a couple of turns in and then make sure it's sitting right up on top, right on top. A couple more turns, and then I'm gonna lay that back. Then I'll take my scissors and I'll cut it just ever so slightly longer than the tail, than the wing, sorry. Okay, now we'll take that CDL, Coq de Lion, and I'm going to take it and bring it out to 90 degrees and kind of bunch all the tips together as best as you can so they are lining up fairly close. I mean, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but I'm just going to bunch them together and then I'm going to squeeze and then pull it off. So if I've done it right, the tips should be fairly close to be lined up. So now I'm going to do that again to the remaining tips. I'm going to have to get another piece here. Just because I want a little bit more than I had there. So again, same thing, just pull that off, line up all my tips as best as possible. This does not have to be perfect. Again, I say this all the time in my videos, things in nature are never straight, right? They're never perfectly straight. So don't cut things straight. If it's not lined up perfectly, that's okay. It looks more natural when it's not. Okay, so a little bit, make sure that's staying right on top. That didn't, so I'm just gonna undo it. Not to my liking, at least. Just gonna make sure that, yeah, there we go. Try that again. Just getting my package put back together because a couple of them fell out. There. Again, I'm just going to make it a little longer towards the eye, and then I'll pull it in a bit, and then make sure it's sitting where I want it to sit. There we go, that looks better. Lash that all down. That's better. I like the little effect that the CDL gives. It just gives a little bit of that oomph, right? So I like that effect. Now I'm just going to take my ring neck. I don't like that piece. It wasn't full enough, so I'm going to grab another one. I had it all prepared, but I don't think that one was full enough for my taste. I like having a nice full beard here. Let's just see how's that going to look. Pull that down. I don't like that one either. Yeah, I get a little bit picky when it comes to the certain aspects of it. And this is one of them. It's because I like having a lot of movement in the beard. So yeah, that one's pretty good. So now I'm going to just turn the fly upside down, and I want this to be just slightly longer than the hook gap. So I'm just going to put it in for now, and then I will pull that back to where I think it will. Where I want it, and then I will lash that down just a little bit more. Lash that down all the way, build a really nice predominant, you want a really nice dominant orange head on this one. Excuse my fingers, I have to kind of hold it just so the fly doesn't move too much. It's a really nice, like I said, really predominant orange head on this. It's just as a hot spot. Just going to go around, make sure that it's what I want. I'm just cutting off a couple of little stragglers here. There we go. And just see how that side looks. Okay, I got to do a little bit more cleanup around the head there, around the eye. I said, nice big head on this one. I found with this one, this hot spot makes all the difference in the world. I've tied it with like just a brown or tan colored head or a black head, and it works, but it works way better with this really bright head. Okay, that's good. Let's see, make sure that got cut off right. Okay, and then what I do is I just take my UV resin, and just a little trick for you guys. I've got one of these, just a little pen container that's dark, and then I get these little contact lens containers, and I put my UV resin into it, and then I'll have a brush, and then I can just dip and brush it, and it never goes hard as long as I keep that container closed. I don't even have to wipe off my brush, right? Because the brush will stay. The brush will stay soft as long as it's not exposed to UV light. So I just keep that container closed and done. Right? Have my UV light in there with it, the whole bit. Could have done a better job on that head, but it's not horrible. So there's your finished fly. Here's another version. Right? So yeah, that's the finished fly. The yellow butt, that's what I called it. It's just a Spey style fly, and it really does really well for swinging. This swings really well. When this gets wet, it slicks right down, and it breathes really well, and it's really good for swinging flies through those tailwaters and stuff. So, alrighty. Hope you guys enjoyed that one, and thanks for tuning in to another edition of On the Bench with Sport Fishing on the Fly. Tie lines.